Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Nina, and today's video is on one of the most requested topics ever in the history of this channel, and something that would have completely changed my life and my home had I only made the connection earlier myself. But we're talking about signs that your mess and clutter are actually stemming from undiagnosed ADHD. Now, just a quick disclaimer that this video is for educational purposes only, and of course is not a replacement for a professional diagnosis. If you think that you might have ADHD, you definitely want to reach out to your doctor or a mental health professional. However, even if you find that you don't actually meet all the diagnostic criteria for adult ADHD, if you can relate to a lot of the traits and characteristics that we're going to talk about in this video, then it's likely that the solutions that can be found in the ADHD cleaning and organizing playlist that I'm going to link in the description box are going to be life-changing for you anyway. And this is because when we experience these things, most of the time, not only does nothing else really work for us, but traditional methods usually end up making us feel completely defeated, depressed, and hopeless. So let's go ahead and jump right into some of the telltale signs that your messy house might be due to undiagnosed ADHD. And then I want to talk about why unmanaged ADHD almost always results in mess and clutter. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but see if any of these things ring a bell. The first thing is half-completed tasks and abandoned projects. People with ADHD are notorious for beginning tasks when we have energy and motivation, but then losing interest or forgetting about them or just giving up on them before they are actually complete. So for example, we may do things like put our clothes in the washing machine and then completely forget that we did that, so we have to run it again 2 days later because everything started to smell. Or maybe we actually get our clothes into the dryer, but by the time that is done, we have run out of energy, so we just throw all the clothes on the bed in a pile and we never actually fold them or put them away. Or we may do things like get inspired to clean our closet or the garage and we take everything out and then we get overwhelmed or bored, so we just leave everything out, making everything even more messy than it was before. We may also just have a ton of clutter from old hobbies that we were at one time really enthusiastic and excited about, but eventually lost interest in after we bought tons of supplies. But bottom line, we can see this pattern of being able sometimes to begin tasks, but never being able to actually complete them. The next sign is something called doom piles. Now, this is an acronym that stands for didn't organize, only moved, which definitely was my go-to method before my ADHD was diagnosed. This is when we have the habit of stashing really random items that need to be organized in some specific place that we tell ourselves that we're going to deal with later. And it's not always a literal pile. It can be any place where we're trying to conceal or contain our clutter indefinitely. So this can be junk drawers or boxes and bins filled with things that have nothing to do with each other, or huge piles of unsorted papers or objects on our desk that usually just live there for years. But whatever it is, it's usually a combination of things that are really important that are being stored with things that are complete garbage. So look around your house and see if you can find any doom piles, because that can be a very significant sign. Another indication can be overthinking letting go, and this is a big one. We just have a hard time making decisions, and we can feel like the fear of making a wrong choice when we are decluttering to be so paralyzing that we end up holding on to all these sentimental items and old clothes and things that we aren't using that we think could have some kind of a purpose, because they become an emotional burden to us that we can't get past. So it's no wonder why it can be so difficult for us to let these things go. Overthinking is unfortunately amplified in individuals with ADHD because our brains are hyperactive. we just get caught in this loop where we are analyzing and then reanalyzing the same information, and it starts to cause this mental block that really prevents us from being able to make decisions and take action. So we end up just keeping everything and storing it away so we don't have to worry about making the wrong decision, and then we just end up with all this extra mess and clutter that is completely unnecessary. Okay, another indication is that we can't clean unless it's urgent. Unfortunately, the crisis cleaning mentality is incredibly common for us. It's like if there's not a pressing need for a task to be completed, our brain can't justify the effort that it's going to take, and we usually can't find the motivation to get ourselves to do it. And because of this, we usually procrastinate on cleaning tasks until they reach a critical point, like when we find out our mother-in-law is coming over in an hour. In fact, in many cases, these type of events really are the only things that can motivate us to tackle our overwhelming mess. Now, another big sign is that we can't find things when we need them. For people with ADHD, it's not just that our home is messy and disorganized. We also constantly are losing things that are essential for us in that mess. So that can range from always misplacing our keys and our glasses, all the way to losing really important documents. Sometimes it gets so extreme that we actually have to repurchase things that we know we already have simply because we cannot find them. And what can be really aggravating is that many times we actually intentionally put these things in a safe place so that we don't lose them, but then we can never remember where that safe place is. But I think one of the biggest and most frustrating signs can be that we really do want to clean, but feel like we quite literally cannot get ourselves to do it. It can seem impossible, like this huge mountain we have to climb, and despite what other people may think, this issue has nothing to do with laziness. What most people don't understand is that all the things that we struggle with when we have ADHD can directly interfere with cleaning and decluttering. Firstly, at its core, ADHD involves a dysregulation of dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that is essential in motivation and reward. This means that no matter how badly we want to do something, when we don't have the tools to manage our ADHD, we oftentimes simply can't push ourselves to do it because we can't find the dopamine that is necessary to make it happen. In addition to that, one of the key features of ADHD is executive dysfunction, which directly affects our brain's ability to plan, organize, and execute tasks. In other words, we have trouble with all the things that would help us to get cleaned up and organized, like time management, prioritizing, and following through on commitments. And even beyond these core challenges, we can oftentimes just find these tasks to be completely overwhelming and distressing and anxiety producing. This emotional toll can significantly impact our overall well-being and contribute to feelings of inadequacy, especially if we feel like we have repeatedly failed at trying to maintain a clean house. It's no wonder why so many of us just avoid these tasks altogether, because our brain has classified cleaning and decluttering as things that are impossible, that we are never going to be successful at. And of course, when this happens, we tend to either give up completely or we just stay in this constant loop of helplessness. So in a nutshell, if you can relate to a lot of these things, it could be the case that you are not lazy, you just have undiagnosed ADHD. But I do want to give the caveat here that there can be a lot of different reasons for clutter. It's not always ADHD by any means, and we talk about all of these different reasons on the channel. So even if you can identify with some of these things, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to meet the diagnostic criteria for adult ADHD. Every single person is unique, and there can be other factors that are contributing to your struggles with clutter. And that's why I definitely recommend consulting with a mental health professional for a proper evaluation if you do think that ADHD or other underlying issues might be affecting your life. That being said, however, if clutter has been a lifelong issue for you, as it definitely was for me, if you do identify that the cause really has been ADHD all along, I know how validating and relieving that can feel, because now we have a real issue that we can manage instead of constantly feeling hopeless and like a failure. And the great thing is that there are very effective strategies that we can use to manage ADHD-related clutter and mess and finally create a more organized and peaceful living space. And as helpless as you feel right now, it can be done. I am living proof of that. And if you are ready to get started right away on some of these methods, I am going to go ahead and link down an entire ADHD-friendly cleaning and organizational playlist, so you will have immediate support. And I would love to hear your story and your struggles and anything you think should be added to the list that we talked about today. So please leave that in the comments. I want to thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next video.